Welcome back, Mando.
Oh, greetings, Bucketheads. Mayvar Tagar. Welcome to our 330th Iron Squad squelching episode of Mandivision. I'm your host, Nargai Tom. Thank you so much for checking out this small, independent Star Wars podcast. So glad that you're here. Make sure you're hitting us up on the socials at Mando_Vision on Twitter /X and Instagram. MandoVision at Blue Sky, and you can email the show, mandovisiontom@gmail.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share the show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. All right, Bucketheads, we are back for another exciting installment of our Star Wars rewatch series. As you may recall, I am recording these in the past, at least your past. And as such, we were recording at night, so we are Mandivision After Dark as well, which means that I must keep my boisterousness to a minimum in order to not anger other people who live here. And that's okay, because we have an episode today that's a little bit more on the subtle side anyways. This isn't exactly the fist-pumping Star Wars episodes that we will sometimes get in the history of the Star Wars animated stuff, but it is an episode nonetheless. And that wasn't very nice of me to say it that way, but it's not the most listen, this is one of those rare episodes where I sort of agree with a lot of the audience interaction on here. Like there's not a lot for me to really kind of dig into in this one and really kind of pull apart. It's a solid episode of the show. It's perfectly fine, but it doesn't really grab you. And as far as getting into any more insights and understandings into our main characters, yeah, not so much. Not so much in this one. But we're going to talk about it and give it its due. Give it the credit it deserves for being part of a great show. One of the things I do want to mention, because again, right around the time that this episode comes out, actually, yeah, by the time this episode comes out, we should be finished with the Alien Earth series that has been on Hulu. And I wanted to take a minute because I am a big fan of the Alien movies. Obviously, the first two are substantially better than other entries in the series, but it's a series that I nonetheless pay attention to and follow and try to see cinematically when possible. I will admit I didn't have much interest in Romulus, so I didn't see that theatrically. But I'm a fan of the Alien. I want to see good Alien stories because I know they can do it. I feel like they've struggled with the movies in recent years, but I'm still in. So when FX announced that Alien Earth would be coming as a limited series of the show, and is being done by Noah Hawley, who did Legion and the Fargo shows and so many other really like stellar FX television shows, I was intrigued. But I didn't want to get my hopes up too much. Again, I've always liked the Noah Hawley television series that we've seen, but I wasn't sure. No one's really seemed to have figured out Alien. Since since the original two, even Sir Ridley Scott had some challenges going back and doing the Prometheus flick, but Alien Earth has been spectacular. I think it has been a really incredible entry into the series, into the saga, however you want to look at it. Now, as I record this, only 6 episodes have come out. So as you listen to this, the final 2 should be out, and hopefully you will have watched it, and hopefully the show will have stuck the landing, and we will have a very satisfying conclusion to the season. Whether it's a season 1 or if it's a finite kind of situation, I guess remains to be seen. But let me tell you, the menagerie of beasties that has been brought to Earth are just absolutely chilling. You thought the xenomorph proper was the scary one. Not these creatures are so much more terrifying in so many more ways. Like the blood leeches and ticks and of course the spider eye, which is one of the most chilling things I've ever seen in my life. The most recent episode that we just watched, we see the flies. It's absolutely horrific. We haven't seen what that giant plant's going to do yet, but I bet when it does do something, it will be monstrous and amazing all at the same time, and we will feel much fear. But yes, the show is great, not just for the creatures though. Like there's a lot of interesting morality play taking place on the show. The action's been stellar. The stuff with the characters I think has been really compelling. There are obviously some storylines that at this point I'm not quite sure about, but we'll see where they go. But I've enjoyed the Morrow character. I've enjoyed Kirsch. Seeing the Kid Cavalier, Boy Cavalier, whatever his name is, Boy Wonder, I don't know. Him square off against Yutani has been very, very interesting as well. Again, from my point in time, there's still 2 episodes left, and they could botch it, they could blow it, but I really do have a lot of hope a lot of belief that they are going to stick the landing. Though, of course, you guys will know. By the time you hear this, you'll know the answer. So right now I'm keeping hope alive, but we'll see what happens in a couple more weeks. All right. So that being said, let's go ahead and get back onto Star Wars. Again, since I am recording in your past, there has not been a lot of Star Wars news to talk about thus far. The press release, the official casting stuff for starfighters out there. We don't really focus too much on that sort of stuff because, again, I want something more tangential. Tangential. The press releases are fine, but I don't like to speculate too much on things. We'll see what happens. Obviously the main belief is that the Ryan Gosling's character will be taking care of a small child, because that's what we do in Star Wars, is we take care of small children from evil. Whether he's a Force-sensitive child or there's something special about him, some hidden prince, I don't know. We'll find out. But it seems to be somewhat familiar territory for Star Wars. I don't know how I feel about that just yet. Like I said, let's wait and see what we get from a trailer, or from a teaser, or anything. Let's wait and see what we can see. All right, so let's get the particulars for this episode of Star Wars Rebels out of the way. Are you ready? All right. This is Star Wars Rebels, Season 3, Episode 8, Iron Squadron. Original air date, November 19th, 2016. Our plot for this episode: Ezra and Sabine join forces to subdue a young pilot ace and his crew, who are foolishly risking their lives to defend their home planet. It's directed by Justin Ridge, written by Matt Meshnevitz, and our primary cast for this week: Taylor Gray is Ezra Bridger, Vanessa Marshall is Harrison Dula, Freddie Prinze Jr. is Kanan Jarrus, Tia Sakar, Sabine Wren, Steve Blum is Eber Orielos, Dave Filoni's Chopper, D. Bradley Baker is Admiral Constantine, Keon Young is Commander Sato, Meredith Bull is Guti Teres, Lars Mikkelsen is Grand Admiral Thrawn, Eric Lopez is John Ergin, and Zachary Gordon as Mart Matten. And listen, friends, let me tell you, Mart Matten is one of the more annoying names I've had to say on this podcast for a Star Wars character. It just doesn't roll off the tongue the way I want it to. My brain's telling me that I'm saying somebody's name backwards, and that's because I kind of am, because it's named after a guy named Matt Martin. But I digress. We will persevere. All right, Bucketheads, you know what that means now. It's time. Strap on your buckets. Let's go.
Get out of here. We'll hold them off. You're going to have to relocate the covert. This is the way. This is the way.
So, let's talk about the episode. As I stated before, it is an episode that it is hard to... it doesn't really have like that grab you kind of moment. Iron Squadron. Phoenix Squadron is on a relief mission to my capo to rescue rebel sympathizers now that the Empire's moved in. Maikepo, we find out, is a planet that Commander Sato's brother was a military person on. They don't really state his role necessarily. He seems to have passed, probably fighting the Empire is what it sounds like. And we learn that Sato tried to bring his nephew with him and get him away from Maikepo, but this kid is stubborn. He's hard-headed. So what the biggest thing I think we find is we get to really measure Ezra's growth, because he was a stubborn character in the beginning who believed he knew best, believed he knew better than others around him. And, Ezra has begun to learn, the military training and conduct that he needs to be a successful rebel. Mart Madden is Ezra again. And Zeb makes a great reference to the fact that when they talk to these kids on the comms, he says it sounds like a bunch of Ezras. We should get out of here, because again, Ezra was kind of a lot of trouble in the beginning here, and I guess that's sort of like the big thing in this episode is sort of a measuring stick of how much Ezra's grown and changed, and what he'll do to help someone who he sees as the way he used to be. Mart Matten's, heart is in the right place, wanting to fight the Empire, and seemingly has like some solid tactics. The way he uses booby-trapped cargo containers as mines or depth charges, or however you want to look at it. It's an interesting tactic nonetheless. And I do like to mention that the ship, Sato's Hammer, is a YT 2400. You may recognize the design because it was the ship. It was basically Dash Rendar's Outrider, if you remember Shadows of the Empire. So I think that's kind of a cool callback. It was also a background ship, I believe, in the Phantom Menace. So another fun piece of Star Wars lore. Yeah, that's right. Because the Outrider. Yeah, you see the Outrider taking off from Tatooine in Special Edition of Star Wars. So yeah, that totally makes sense. And in case you're not aware, I am a Shadows of the Empire person. I am a fan of Dash Rendar. And I, would love to see that character come back somehow, some way, even though it seems completely unlikely. I think Shadow of the Empire was a really fun piece of expanded universe. The first real attempt to tell a story set between Empire and Return of the Jedi. But again, I'm off topic here. But that's the ship that Mart Matten's flying. That is the ship of Iron Squadron. And his two friends on board as like engineers and gunners and stuff like that. So Mart has like some solid tactics in him, but he keeps thinking that he's fighting Star Destroyers, and he's not. He's fighting, a transport, and he's fighting a light cruiser, and doesn't really understand the level of trouble that he's in with the Empire, because he's having some success against these incredibly much smaller ships than a Star Destroyer. So when the Star Destroyer actually arrives and he sees the true scale of one, it is somewhat jarring for him. But he's a stubborn kid, thinks he knows best, isn't worried about having a hyperdrive because he wants to stay and defend his planet, even though it's a completely ludicrous idea, thinking that the Empire won't send more and more ships after him. And, Mart's plan against the transport only works because the Ghost broke off from its convoy to come and aid against the TIE fighters. So, again, very, very interesting stuff in that regard. Well, I shouldn't say very, very interesting. Let me take that back. It's sort of an interesting premise, again, to kind of throw Mart up against Ezra so we can see Ezra's growth. The other thing in this episode that I think is of note, and it's a small thing. They don't spend. I don't think they spend enough time with it. But we are with Thrawn. He sends Constantine to Maikepo to sort of deal with this rebel ship. He knows the Ghost is there. Thrawn knows the Ghost is there. So he's still kind of like punching around the edges here, figuring out the tactics and of the rebels and learning like their ways. He's not ready to engage fully yet, so he uses Constantine as sort of a litmus test, right, to kind of see what the rebels will do in this situation. And Thrawn also learns that obviously Maikepo was a good way to lure Sato out, because Sato comes to the rescue at the very, very end to aid in getting his nephew back. At one point, the Empire does disable Mart's ship. They plant a mine on it. We get some good stuff with Chopper and the droid that they have on their ship. And it's decent. It's a quick paced episode. Again, the insights with Thrawn. Mart sort of growing in the episode, coming to realize that he can't do these fights on his own, that he is up against a juggernaut in the Empire. Again, it's an episode full of nice little moments, but it doesn't hit hard enough for me. Again, the Thrawn stuff's good. The juxtaposing Mart and Ezra is fine. It's interesting. But nothing really grabs me because it's not anything in this episode that becomes important or significant. It's just sort of, again, Thrawn testing him out and us seeing that Ezra's grown as a character. And that's kind of where the episode goes. I mean, there's some decent action, good space combat. I'm a fan of that. And there's fun stuff with the droids. Chopper and that other droid fighting each other. I find that entertaining, even though I'm not a fan of droid-on-droid violence. But decent enough, but it's skippable too. I don't think there's going to be anything in this episode that, if it does pay off down the road, you won't be like, oh gosh, I better go back and rewatch that one. It just doesn't work that way for this episode. And there are some like that. I don't want to, I dislike labeling shows as disposable or throwaway because there's people worked hard on these shows. So to say that is, I think, disrespectful to them. And again, there's nothing actually wrong with the episode. It's perfectly serviceable. But for me, it is 6 buckets. That's all I can muster for it. Maybe a 6.5 if I'm feeling generous. It just doesn't grab me that much. The characters don't really grab me that much. It's another set of kids to bounce off of. I do want to say that, let me go back here. I know I gave my bucket rating already, but I did like the scene where Ezra's talking to I already forgot their names, Junie and the girl. Her name eludes me at the moment. Let me see if I can pull that up really fast here, because I want to make sure that I am conveying my thought accurately. So let's see here. Bop. Yeah, we got, John or Jin is the guy in Guti Teres. So the scene with Ezra talking to those two about the way he was and the way he is now, the things he had to go through, the things that had to happen. He was in a similar situation. The Empire came to Lothal, but he lost everything. His parents are gone. It cost him everything, but he had to leave to be where he is now. It forced his growth. It forced him to see the bigger picture here, and he's trying to relay that to them. And he's also trying to scare them, and that's probably the strongest scene in the episode. But it's still not enough. I sort of like Mart letting his friends go aboard the Phantom to get away, to save them, while he goes on his suicide run, even though he doesn't think it's a suicide run. But he obviously has enough common sense to have some awareness that he may not make it out of this, so he can send his friends away. But yeah, I think that scene between Ezra and the other two, Junie Jin and I already forgot her name, Guti Teres, is probably the strongest thing, because again, it's also Ezra acknowledging his growth and his change, and that the things that he didn't want to do at the time were the right things to do, even though he didn't want to do them. So I'm going to stand by my... I'm already softening. I'm going to go 6.5. 6.5, because I do like that scene. But that's it. Again, I don't think there's anything in this episode that you need to call back to later on in the series. And it is what it is. That's perfectly fine. So that's that. Just remember, we'll be back next week to talk about another episode of Star Wars Rebels. So stay tuned. I want to thank you guys always for the continued support. You're so amazing. You're so wonderful. You're so kind by taking the time to download, stream, and share the show with your friends and pals. Watch me on the YouTube, even though there's nothing to see. I truly appreciate it. And yeah, it's a fun time to be a Star Wars fan. A lot of the good things coming up. I think next week I'm going to try to give you an update on some of the comic books I've been reading as we do another Rebels rewatch, and maybe there'll be some news in the world about anything. So let's get out of here. Let's wrap this puppy up. Go ahead, follow the show on the socials, Mando_Vision, Twitter/X and Instagram, Mandovision at Blue Sky, and you can email the show, mandovisiontom@gmail.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share the show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. And hey, if you can, 5-star reviews. They help the show out tremendously. I appreciate anyone who takes the time to do so. Really do appreciate it. It's a big internet world out there, and there's a bajillion podcasts. And if you take the time to support this one by downloading, listening, and streaming it, give us a 5-star. It means a lot. Thank you so much. We'll be back next week. Bucketheads, go out there, be great Star Wars fans, kind, respectful, tolerant, embracing of other ideas and theories, even if they are crazy. And we'll be back to talk more Star Wars with you guys next week. In the meantime, remember, this podcast, it can only end one way. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
I would like to see the baby.
I find that answer vague and unconvincing.